Sorry.
Hey, Nick.
Yes, ma'am.
Megan has some really great punny jokes that you should
Oh my God.
Who'd you
tell
say,
him.
Megan?
Megan, she's
Hey,
one of the
Megan.
on our call here. Yeah.
Can you hear me?
I can.
Okay. Um, what do you call an acid with an attitude?
Can I say this in the building that we're in right now? That's the real question.
It's amino acid.
Oh, amino acid. I just got it. Okay. Quick. That was funny.
You
I
got
was
all the
like, wait a second.
peptides. I felt like you really would know that one.
I did it. I was like, wait a second. Amino acid. Oh, okay. I just got it. I was just talking. I
Why
was just talking
why
about them
why does the
too.
mushroom always get invited to the party?
I don't know. You got to tell me this one.
Because he's a fun guy.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. We're about to start. I'm trying to gather myself really quick.
Thank you, Megan.
All right, you guys, we're about to start.
I'm glad y'all laughed at that.
I am. Oh, that's funny.
I have
All right,
so
you
many.
guys, my name is Nick Stonebreaker, and I will be your MC throughout this event. Thank you for coming in here and joining this conversation. Together, we're about to do some powerful things here today. I'm just going to say a quick quote really quick before we kick this meeting off. The seeds we plant to build community are just as sacred as the seeds we plant in the ground. As this whole thing goes, just think about that key factor right there. If everybody can lower their heads, I'm going to say a quick prayer. Creator of all growth and goodness, we thank you for this new day and the opportunity to work together. Bless our minds with clarity, our hands with purpose, and our hearts with unity. May the work we do today bring nourishment to the land, prosperity to the people, and honor to the gifts you've entrusted to us. Guide our decisions so that every seed we plant, both in soil and in spirit, bears lasting fruit. Amen.
Amen.
Oh, I forgot to press the slide. That's my fault.
We won't fault you for it.
Okay, good. All right, I'm going to present and introduce Scotty Mangrum as one of the co-founders of AgriHarvest Solutions. Has invited you guys all here today, and he's going to explain over this presentation. No, you're going to use the mouse. Just okay.
Hey, everybody. How y'all doing?
Good.
Sure,
How
glad
are
to see
you?
all these smiling faces here today and everyone who's joining us online. My name's Scotty Mangrum. I'm a fifth generation farmer from here in Alabama. I learned farming from my father, who learned it from his, and we learned a way of farming that has done more damage than it has good, and it's over-tilling of the soil. Over-tilling of the soil is the common practice that we all grew up with. Anyone who farmed on any size piece of property knows what that is. I was taught we take a 3-bottom plow, we put it behind a tractor, and we turn everything over and lay it on top. And then we start over right there. And you know, we've learned that monoculture, that's monoculture farming is what that's called. We've learned that that's right. One crop. We've also become dependent on toxic chemicals to farm. So the food we eat, we know now through some of the testing that we've seen, the food that we consume into our bodies is full of toxins from these chemicals. Overgrazing of farmland, of pasture land, has led to the deterioration of these soils. Our goal is to try to not just try to sell these products, but to teach a new way of farming. We have some products that are organic type products that we truly believe in that we're going to introduce to everyone during this presentation. And I'm going to go ahead and turn this all over to Dr. Brandon here. Keep going, man. All right. Some of the symptoms associated with damaged soil are decreased nutrient density, water retention, earthworms in the soil, and drought resistance. We see an increase in fruit and root rot, pest problems, plant wilting, and leaf discolorations associated with the damage. And these are coming mainly from the soil. We've pretty much caused our soil to become impotent, I guess you would say. That's a good word for it. So we are dependent now on fertilizers and chemicals and things like that to be able to grow our food. And it's a mindset. It's taught in the classrooms at the college level. It is if we call a county extension agent, he's going to give us the same spiel. I don't care what county we're in. I don't care what state we're in. This is all just big. I don't even know the term here I'm looking for this, but I got some terms for it, but I'm gonna keep it to myself. But anyway, we have, we've figured out that there's a different way of doing this. Is this where you got to tell me where you're? All right, they changed it up on me. Y'all sorry. Solutions to establish practices that replenish the soil. Limit tilling. Woo, that's a big one. Crop coverage, supportive inputs, companion plantings. Dr. Brandon's going to go over all of that with us here in just a minute. I want to go to the first one, though, limited tilling. We now know that we don't have to turn the land over to farm. Although that's a practice that some people still use in larger farms, they don't turn the soil over. They chisel plow the soil. And they go down deep and break the soil up down deep, but it's not in a too bad of a destructive way, and we don't bring the bottom up and kill everything. Crop coverage is going to be cover cropping, things like that we're teaching about in this segment today. Supportive inputs, that's going to be some of the things that we are pushing here today. Our way that we have tested and we have found to really work for growing plants. And companion planting is planting things that are going to attract wildlife that's going to support plant growth. Soil is the beginning of the quality of food. It's from the documentary Kiss the Ground. If you haven't watched that documentary, I would suggest that you watch that. If you want to know anything about this regenerative movement, that's a good place to start. All right, here we go. Now, Allie is going to, hang on just a second. I'm going to bring Allie in. Allie is in Belize. She is going to give us a short video here, introduce herself. She's a critical member of our team on the support side, and we think the world of her. So I'm going to go ahead and play this for you.
Dr. Brandon, we don't have audio. One second.
What'd you say, Allie?
We don't have audio.
Okay, timeout. Not sure why you don't have audio. Should be working, Allie. We might have to figure this out later. Sorry.
You can mute your computer for this presentation and I can play it on my end for the people online.
Okay, you want me to start it over?
Okay, go ahead.
Can you hear me, Allie?
Yeah.
Yay. No, it's not Kansas. It's Harry Vetch. That's my cover crop. So I'm Robert Brandon. I serve as executive director and farm manager here at New Order Farms. Just a real quick, a little bit about us. We began in 2011 as a missionary training center here at Lake Martin. We're on 23 acres, and we had the bright idea early on to establish a small farm here to help pay expenses. So the farmers always laugh at that you were going to make a profit from farming, but none of us were really farmers, so we thought that was a cool idea. But what we've done with the farm is to integrate it into the landscape of this. This is an event center, and our mission is to create and host events that cultivate spiritual growth and renewal. So we are faith-based, 501c3 here, and we host a lot of events like this, training events. We have a church that meets here. We have corporate events. We have 2 weddings this weekend. So lots of different kinds of things, but beautiful, obviously, piece of property that people come and sense the presence of God here in peace. And so all that fosters growth, and hopefully when folks leave, they are better and they can go out and serve others. So that's our goal here, that what we do. So we like to say that we refresh, restore, and relaunch leaders, Christian leaders, back into the work environment. So a couple of years ago, I left my job as an HR director in a medical practice and came down here as the farm manager. Been involved since the beginning of the facility, and really my goal in the first couple of years is to get things back on track. We had kind of gone off the rails. We tried to manage the farm from Birmingham, that kind of thing, and it just didn't work. And so we spent the last couple of years getting the farm back into production in a good way. And that kind of led us down a path of what we were doing really wasn't working well. We went with advice from extension specialists and other crop specialists that recommended a IPM, integrated pest management, that was heavily based on synthetic fertilizers and pesticides and all that good stuff. And so what we began noticing is our production was dropping off. Our plants weren't doing well. They not only had they not really been managed well, not to the detriment of any staff that were here, but just we really didn't kind of know what we were doing. And so we've changed our processes over these last couple of years. And folks like Ryan Montgomery here in the room, my assistant over here, Matthew Strong, been a big part of that transition. And we embrace the regenerative movement. And that's looking at soil health, not necessarily the plant, everything above the ground. We really never had focused on that. So it led us down a path, and you see some of the books that we've been reading and studying. And my background is in agricultural engineering, so kind of big ag. I worked ag. My research was in automated steering of vehicles and computer vision, that kind of thing. Never really had a lot of things to do with the soil. But moving down here personally, I would say my life has changed by having my hands in the dirt every day and being outside. And Tom's over here smiling. Tom looks great. Tom is 95 years old, and this is what farming will do to you. Let me tell you. But it is quite energetic. So we kind of got things back in shape, back on track, and it really has changed how we look at things here at New Water, really working hard to improve our soil health. Obviously, as you rode in, you realize you're kind of on a ridge, everything slopes to the lake. So we have erosion things that all the good soil is out there under the water over the last 100 years or so. But we've kind of made the transition to really working hard in the soil. So we've gone away from synthetic fertilizers and sprays and really built our soil health to where we don't have to spray for bugs or funguses. We do have a little bit of that. I'll show you some of that today. Limiting our use of herbicide. I hope this year we can get away totally from glyphosate. We got away from it all in our growing zones. But we're really trying hard to move away from those things because of what we know now is detrimental to our health and definitely in our food. So all of our vegetables here are organically grown. We've changed over this year to our fruits will be organically grown and managed. And we believe that makes for obviously a healthier soil, healthier people, because of the healthy food that we're able to produce. So that's just a little bit about, I'm not sure how to get out of this thing. I don't want to play it again. Y'all saw let's just try this. Oh yeah, here we go. So this has been a transition and a journey. I was talking to Matthew this morning. So one thing it's forced me is to learn new ways, just like Scotty's learning new ways to do things. And it's not just learning for the sake of learning. It is about leaving a legacy for those behind us. It's about producing quality food. Just some quick stats about our county, Tallapoosa County, and here where we are located now. We have about a 22% incidence of diabetes. And 16% disabled and 18% without insurance. And we really have some issues with access to good, healthy food. And we're an agricultural state. It's embarrassing to me that's the situation that we live in. So one thing we're doing here at New Water to serve the community next month, within the next 4 or 5 weeks, we will be offering food and nutrition classes to food pantry recipients to help them. How do I eat healthy? What do I do with the stuff in the box? Because a lot of times they don't know, so they just chunk it in the ditch. And we're helping a couple of folks start big gardens to, have locally accessible fresh food. We're working with Ryan and Southern Prep along with what they're doing. Guys, if you were here or saw the presentation last week about the plan to get that land back into production and producing healthy food, and you're teaching teenagers, you're teaching the future. We probably looking around this room, we're kind of last phase. God, that sounds terrible, doesn't it? We ain't getting any younger. How's that? But folks coming behind us that just are unaware of what it takes, just to grow good, healthy food. And it's not that they don't want to know. It's the mechanisms haven't been in place. So we can serve as mentors to those coming generations. And that's what I'm so excited what Southern Prep is doing over there. But this has kind of led me to relearn, or I would say this. I didn't pay good enough attention when I was in school of what I should have known now. But, 40 years later, I'm back in a really sweet spot in my life, and it's forced me to learn a lot of new things. But I thought I'd just share a little bit about today. We talked a lot about soil health. So I'm like, well, what should I know about my soil? And so I think to start with a couple of working definitions. Soil is, first of all, if you can just know that soil is alive. I believe we believe conservative, in a tablespoon of really good soil, there are more microbes than there are people in the world. I mean, it's a really staggering, a lot of you can't see with your eyes, so you're like, nothing's happening here. And a lot of people call it dirt. Well, dirt is not living. Dirt is dead. Soil is alive. It's a living, alive system. But it's the top layer of the earth. It's a mixture of minerals, organic matter, or think of organic matter as decaying matter, once was alive, water, air, microorganisms. It's essential for supporting plant life and ecosystems. So that's one thing that changed for me, was to look at this as a system, a living system, because it holds nutrients, water, and provides a habitat. So think habitat, biosystems, that leads us to biodiversity. And it's the skin of the earth that supports life. The interesting thing is soil is formed from rocks. So you remember the 3 rocks? What are they? Sedimentary. My mind just escaped too. Yeah, there's 3 of them. But those break down, and we'll show you that in a second. So that's, just if you can walk away to here and go, soil is alive. It's a living system. Igneous, that's it, yeah. So then we talk about soil structure. This is going to come up a little bit. So soil structure is an arrangement of the primary soil particles. So we have sand, silt, and clay as the 3 primary soil types, and the organic matter. So you have this organic matter that's mixing with the sand, silt, and clay into clumps, and the word is aggregate. And it defines the shapes, the size, the stability of these aggregates, so how it's formed in the soil, which in turn determine, this is really important, pore space, aeration, water movement, and root penetration within the soil. So y'all got that? Those are the kind of things that kind of are going to come up. Yes, sir. How do I make it go back? Yeah, pore space, aeration, water movement, and root penetration within the soil. So it's the things in the soil, how they move about. So that's very important. So here's just kind of a picture on the left side. You have the organic layer, which is the surface of the earth, organic in the surface. You have subsoil, which Scotty talked about in the old days, you flipped all that. You got down to your subsoil. So you were moving the subsoil to the top and the organic stuff below the soil. So essentially, you were killing everything because you were aerobic becomes anaerobic, which can't survive, and vice versa. So that's the old system. But below the subsoil, you have the parent material, and there's the bedrock. So, a lot of people. I remember as a child in my dad's garden, you go pick all the rocks, and 3 months later, there's more rocks. So things are working to the surface, right? And then on the right-hand side, you've got things like, you hear these words: humus, organic with minerals. That's the top layer. Then you've got your sand, silt, and clay, which is your subsoil. The mineral material and the rock hit. So if you're in the construction industry, those are the terms they might use. But you've got these horizons, the A, B, C, D, obviously A top, and it moves down throughout. So that's how soil is structured. Now, the interesting thing is these layers vary wherever you are. So this can't be just this outline is the same, but they've got it drawn to where every layer is the same. That's not true. Here at the farm, we have about a 6-inch at best organic layer at the top. Then we get into our subsoil, which is red clay. So, you just got to really pay attention to what you've got. So if you break soil down, this is kind of a typical, this is kind of what we have here. You've got about 45% minerals. And then on the left-hand side, you've got a 50-50 split between air and water. So if you've got good pore space, you've got all these in your soil structure. And then a 5% organic matter, which is really high for Alabama. It's made up of living and dead organism, roots, and the humus, the decayed matter. And so you see most of it is what you want is the humus. We've been able to, with our practices over the last 3 or 4 years in our garden, to move to a 5% organic matter, which is pretty high. And remember talking about aeration, pore space, all that water infiltration. A 5% organic matter can take a 5-inch rain without any water runoff. That's about 120,000 gallons of water in an acre. That's really important for where we are on this lake, that everything's not just going off into the lake, but it's going down into the soil. So organic matter is a big deal. So, it's interesting as some of us didn't know each other. When you came in the room, you had some favorite questions you asked of somebody. And typically these, if you're in the South, there's a couple that aren't here, but typically, where are you from? Where'd you go to school? Or what's your favorite football team? Where do you go to church? What do you do for a living? People ask me, what do you want to be when you grow up? Or what do you do? How'd you get where you are? But those are common questions we ask people. And all that is for context. We're trying to make a bit of a connection to the person we're talking to, find those commonalities. So it's the same with your soil. So we're going to get real cozy with soil right here. And these are the questions that you should be asking about your soil. What soil type do I have? Is it sandy? Is it clay? Is it, is there a mixture of something? So what do I got? What's the pH of my soil? What's my organic matter content? What minerals and nutrients are available in the soil to support the plant life? What's the history before I started? And what am I trying to do here? So you can kind of relate that to interviewing your soil, if you will. This should kind of give you a context. So let's talk about soil types. We mentioned sand, silt, and clay. Most of you know if you go to the beach, sand is coarse and gritty. It gets in your bathing suit. It's uncomfortable. It dries quickly. You can see the waves come in, waves go out, the soil's dry. It just goes through. It drains rapidly. But sand is low in nutrients. Okay. Silt. Typically, you scoop out the bottom of the pond or the creek, and you got this silty stuff. It's kind of smooth and soapy. It's fertile. It does hold moisture well, and it's easily compacted. So my house is right up here. I dug a bunch of, when the water dropped in our little pond, I dug a bunch of silt out and thought, this is going to be some good stuff. It's like concrete. That was not a good idea. But anyway. But then, we're a red clay state here in Alabama. So about clay. It's very tiny particles, very little pore space. It's dense, heavy, and sticky. It sticks to your shoes. You get it on your stuff. I had a pair of pants on yesterday that my wife had actually washed, and the pants were still red. That stuff stains. That's some bad stuff. If you've ever been in the Mississippi Delta, they got the gumbo mud. You walk across the field and you're 10 inches taller. It is just sticky, sticky, sticky. But clay does retain high moisture and nutrients, but it drains poorly. Why do we have red clay pots? Because the water stays in the pot, right? So you dig a hole here, plant a tree in the red clay, you come back and it's full of water, right? So yeah, so y'all know about the red clay stuff. But then we have things like peat. That's the stuff we buy in the store to mix in our soil. It's very high in organic matter. It's very acidic, and it's very dark in color. That's very important. Dark in color. It retains moisture, and it does improve soil structure. So remember, we talked about pore space and aggregates, all those kinds of things. That's what it improves. So you're adding organic matter to your soil. But then there's loam, which is a mixture of sand, silt, and clay. This is my favorite soil. I love loam. Because it holds moisture, it drains well, it's rich in nutrients, and it's considered the best for gardening. Here in Alabama, we kind of have to make loam. It doesn't naturally exist. And then there's chalky, very high in very alkaline, very high in pH. I think about driving through Sylacauga and see those trucks that work at the quarry and they're white. That's alkaline. That's chalky. It's stony. It does require a lot of amendments to grow any acid-loving plant. We're going to get into that in a second. So you kind of got these types of soil. This is the soil triangle. So at the top is 100% clay. The bottom right is 100% silt. The bottom left is 100% sand. So you can kind of see as you move around this triangle how things are, and then you can kind of see where things start to mix. So you've got clay loam or sandy loam. What we've done here at New Water is as we've added compost to our soils, we've moved it from clay to a sandy clay loam. And as we've added other aggregates a couple years ago, we added a lot of sand to some of our growing spaces. It became sandy clay loam. And so kind of in this gray zone, that's kind of where we really want to be. You can grow stuff in clay. You can grow stuff in sand. You can grow stuff in silt. It's possible. Don't let anybody tell you, I got clay, I can't grow anything. I bet you got weeds, right? So it happened. So that's kind of just a quick one on the soil types. I think this is a good picture of healthy soil versus, Scotty mentioned degraded soil. So remember he talked about tilling. And a lot of times as gardeners, we like the rototiller, right? It breaks all that stuff up, makes it really fine and pretty and neat. But let's go through that real quick. So healthy soil has good structure. Remember soil structure, aggregate space, pores, water, root penetration. That's the structure. And so this diagram is really good. You can see the particles are irregular in shape, so they create friction, right? But you've got these channels where water goes down. And it's not going straight down. That'd be sand, just straight down. But it has some irregularity to it, so it soaks in slowly. And so you've got this slower water velocity where it's not just shearing or sheening off. The aggregates obviously are dark in color because of the organic matter. But at the top, notice the green and the brown stuff at the top. That's the dead vegetation. That's breaking down and moving down into the soil with this water infiltration. So Scotty mentioned cover crops. That's why we cover the soil. We armor the soil with a living root. It's either going to capture the nitrogen and the carbon in the air and bring it down through photosynthesis and exudates through the roots into the soil. I like to say it's free fertilizer. But it's also preventing the water on the right-hand side. See how it's just moving off the surface of the soil? It's erosion. So this weak structure, back to the tilling, it's breaking these aggregates up into really, really fine particles. And so you're destroying the soil structure. It's pretty. I remember my dad holding up a handful of our tilled up soil in the garden and go, isn't this pretty? I'm like, well, it's kind of like nothing. It looks neat, but functionally speaking, it was really not alive. You notice that because these particles are really small and you've minimized the pore space, the water doesn't infiltrate, it runs off because the pores are clogged or either just so minimum. That's why a lot of times in clay soils, it just washes straight off. Light in color because there's no organic matter. And interesting that we often think when we make that really pretty and have that fine stuff, the raindrops come and pulverize it, and that's actually what creates surface compaction. So big difference here in healthy soil and degraded soil. Well, let's talk about pH. Really popular term. pH is basically a measure of acidity or alkalinity of the soil. This is the scientific definition. It's the concentration of hydrogen ions in the soil solution on a logarithmic scale from 0 to 14. So 0 is extremely acidic, 14 is extremely alkaline, and obviously 7's in the middle, and that's neutral. So pH acts as a variable that dictates the nutrient availability, microbe activity, and overall plant health. So it's very, very important. It's a very important measure of our soils, how good they are. So the ideal pH for most agricultural crops is between 5.5 and 7.5. Remember, 7 is neutral. Extremely acidic, below 4.5, it's hard for plants to grow. Strongly acidic, 4.5 to 5.5, are acid-loving plants, tomatoes, blueberries, azaleas, those kinds of plants. Neutral, 6.6 to 7.3, is the ideal for garden plants and lawns or grasses, pasture land, that kind of thing. Matthew's he's manager of the Tallapoosa County Girls Ranch, and he's now testing his soils to improve their pasture, to improve their grazing, to improve their cattle, to improve the beef that we all like to eat. And so he's been tracking pH with that and addressing, making sure he's in a good range. And then obviously alkaline, over 7 to 4. This is interesting because some of these trace minerals like iron or manganese, it's hard for them to be alive and to move in that alkaline soil. There's things that happen with pH that limit the transfer of nutrients to the plant. So pH. This is a really cool graph. So right in the middle is 7, and you can see these nutrients where they are most optimal with pH. And you can see the yellow is, I think, yellow light, red light, green light. You can see as you move away from that, so that 5.5 to 7.5 is kind of where we want to be. And you can see what happens when we get outside those bounds. So something like nitrogen, below 5.5, it's really hard for that plant to uptake that nitrogen. So that's why we want to get that pH back to around 7. Interesting things like iron and manganese, boron, copper, and zinc, those are trace elements. Look how pH really inhibits the availability of plants. And even molybdenum, which is a really, really small trace element on the alkaline side, it's way over there in the green. So that one's kind of tough to manage. These are very important nutrients for our soils and our plants. So pH really is important for that. Taking a snapshot of that one. All right. So let's talk about organic matter. Soil organic matter is the fraction of the soil that consists of plant or animal tissue in their various stages of breaking down or decomposition. It typically makes up about 1 to 6% of the total mass in most productive mineral topsoils. There's a book over there called Dirt to Soil by a guy named Gabe Brown. I think he's in North Dakota. He's got like 15 to 18% organic matter. And he's been doing it for 25 years. Like I said, we moved ours from about 1 to 2 to 5, and we were like doing jumping jacks. We're so excited. So I'd like to get it to, maybe 8 would be amazing. But it plays a very, very critical role in soil structure, nutrient cycling, and water retention. So the higher you can get your organic matter, the better your soil is going to be, the better for us for water retention. So we don't have to water everything so much. So there's physical benefits to organic matter. Obviously, the aggregate stability improves water infiltration, soil aeration, reducing runoff. Those are the obvious ones. But it also improves water holding capacity. And a lot of that's related to the carbon presence in the soil. The more organic matter you have, the more carbon you're going to have in your soil typically. So that helps with the water holding. So carbon is very important for water retention. But you think of clay doesn't often have a lot of organic matter. That would make it sticky. So the more that you can increase your organic matter, the easier it is to work with the soil. And we're not taught, I should have taken the word till out here, but till means working with the soil. I mean, a lot of things out here I can just use my hand to move the soil. Our goal is to be able to push a shovel into the soil and not have to jump up and down on it, which we used to have to do. So surface crusting helps with seedbed preparation. I mean, it makes it's arable. It's just a really good soil to work with. So it makes it easier for us. Chemical benefits, cation exchange capacity. Think of exchange exchanging usually in water. It's and it also for holding things like calcium, magnesium, that where it's going to come up the rest of the day, potassium, those trace elements are really, really important as a chemical benefit because what's going on chemically in the soil for the transfer of those things. Also, it resists the pH moving all around. If you got a higher organic matter, tends to stabilize. And then obviously another chemical benefit is accelerating decomposition, which you want those things that we're living to break down. You can think of a forest. Nobody plows or tills the forest, right? It just, God made it that way. And you go digging in the forest, and there's some pretty good soil below that top surface. And so, a chemical benefit of a good pH is just breaking down the matter and turn it into good soil. But there's a biology. Obviously, the higher organic matter, you can have more living organisms in the soil. So the microbial biodiversity is very, very important. So Scotty talked about monoculture. So one thing with soil health is you're promoting the biodiversity of your soil. It's not just, how can I say this? So it's not just one decomposing thing in the soil. We've got this all kinds of stuff. And Ryan had a great example of that at Southern Prep with his composting system that he's got. He's really building that organic matter up in the soil and building life in the soil. But also the benefit of biology is the more pore spaces, so less compacting. Remember that we talked about that. So then you've got more infiltration and less runoff. So organic matter, good question to ask. Hey, what's your organic matter? But then the other thing is plant nutrients in the soil. Obviously, we're pretty familiar with nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, the NPK. That's kind of the foundation needed by the plants for growth and photosynthesis. But there are other things like calcium, magnesium, sulfur. I think this is the part I must have slept in class because I never remembered any of this stuff. But these trace elements are very, very important, and they're very important at certain times of the plant. They're more important than other times. But there's other things like iron and manganese, zinc, copper, boron, molybdenum. These are trace elements, very small amounts that are needed to support that plant life. One thing that it seemed counterintuitive to me, and one thing we've seen out here at New Water, the healthier our soil is, the healthier the plants are, and the less stresses they have, whether it's drought or a bug or a fungus. So the healthier the plant we can have can actually reduce the inputs that we have to put to have our crop. One stat that I learned was for every bad bug, there's 1,700 good bugs. And the more healthy your system is, the more diversity there's going to be. Last year, out here, we were, our farm team from the Girls Ranch, we were picking peas, and there were 3 species of wasps out there. 3 different color wasps. And they're all like, oh my gosh, there's wasps. We need to kill them and spray them. I'm like, time out. Let's hold on here. Why do you think those wasps were here? Well, they were eating the sugar. When you pick that pea, there's a little bit of sugar gets exuded, and they were feeding on the sugars, but also they were eating the aphids. Aphids are not good. So let's back off. Hold on a second before y'all want to kill everything. Let's see what they're doing and why they're here. So they were like, light bulb went off in their head. Oh, maybe this is a good thing. So that's also really important. Mention history and planned use. It is important once, I know this is probably going to be the case. We're helping a group that's been part of these meetings start a community garden over in one of the suburbs of Atlanta. My first question is, what was here before? My wife and I did some ministry in Birmingham with starting community gardens on old home sites. And that was the first question we asked. What was here before? Lead paint? Was this, a dump site? And what is actually there? That's really important to know. Is there any opportunity that there was contamination? Things like heavy metals, lead, arsenic, and it's really important in urban areas. But also, is there compaction or a lot of rocks that will inhibit plant growth? I think this was were the apple trees gone when you were here, Ryan? Have we taken them out? So, we put all these little small plots in, and when you come into the gate, if you look on the right, there's a red clay hill, and I'm trying to reclaim that with wildflowers and cover crop. But there was an apple orchard there, and it got a disease. But when we were putting the trees in, We figured out there was a rock ledge in there. So our soil was about that deep. So we're having to move the trees around to plant around the rock ledge. We probably should have said, this ain't going to work. Really shallow soil, trying to plant trees in rock bed, it just wasn't good. We should have asked that question. But also, I would encourage you in a rainstorm, look and see what's happening at your site. Is the water running off or is it going down? Is it creating erosion issues? But also, what plants will grow best in the current condition, your pH, your organic matter, and what amendments will I have to add or introduce? So that's what's this going to take? A lot of people just blindly jump into it and go, I'm going to plant a garden. I'm going to go buy me a tractor and a tiller and about 100 pounds of nitrogen fertilizer, and we're going to have all the fresh food we can consume. Well, you might want to back up a second and interview your soil and see where, all those things. But this is important. In the medical world, if you went to the doctor and he walked in and said, here's my symptom, doc. And he goes, well, take this. You know what they call that? Fraud. He has to have a diagnosis, right, before he can make a plan. And I would encourage you, make a diagnosis. Test your soil. So you can do a basic soil test with your state extension office. It costs about $10. It's going to give you the pH, the phosphorus, the potassium, magnesium, and calcium breakdown. It's really a foundation. And what to do too is don't just do this one time. I think it's not an exact thing. It's a benchmark for you to know kind of what's going on in the soil. But I would encourage you really to go beyond that $10 and spend about 50 more bucks on it's called a Haney test. And I'll show you the Haney test is unbelievable. It will tell you lots of things, your biological, your chemical, your physical properties. Remember we talked about the benefits of those to assess nutrient availability and microbial activity. So it's very, very comprehensive. We did a Haney test on the garden soil. We're fixing to do it again next week. And I'll show you the summary, but it was accompanied with 15 pages of explanation. So it's not just information, it was good information, but it was more than, here's your pH, here's your phosphorus, here's your potassium, here's your blah, blah, blah. And then we recommend this. But also you can do a little bit yourself. I mentioned Matthew is testing his pasture land, and there's some handheld devices. I got 3 back there that we use. There's a variety of things that are available now for not a lot of money. A handheld pH meter. So we track our pH monthly now, and it takes me about 45 minutes to do the entire farm, all our growing zones. Nutrient testers that tell you your nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, the little piece of paper, and you do all that kind of stuff. Penetrometers for compaction. My point is you really probably need to measure that. You can stick a shovel in and golly, man, this is hard. So that can be a little bit subjective. Soil moisture, and then you really get into it if you want to do heavy metals. And they're pretty inexpensive. But here, I don't know if you've done a soil test before. I did this one last year on our blackberries with Auburn and Extension Service, and here's kind of what comes back. This is one of our blackberry blocks. The soil group was clay loam, or clay. It was clay with compost decomposing material because we mulched the tops of them. I thought, well, I'll figure that one out. But anyway, you can see our pH was 5.9. It's just a tad low, but in the range of what blackberries. But look at this, phosphorus. The EH means extremely high. So we got an issue with phosphorus here. Phosphorus does not go away unless it washes away. This is being recorded, and I'm probably putting myself out on a limb, but where do you think it's going to wash out here in New Water if it washes away? Into the lake. That's not a good thing. So we are trying to manage that as best we can. Potassium was medium. Magnesium is high, and the reason it's high is I've been applying it to deal with a fungal issue. So I was expected to be high. I also did a plant tissue analysis, and it was high. And I'm like, well, duh, I've been putting it on there for 2 months, so it should be high. So I was glad they picked up on that one. Our calcium is within range. Their recommendation was don't add any lime. The pH is good. But look what they recommend, 100 pounds of nitrogen per acre. We got about an acre of blackberries. So they're recommending 100 pounds of nitrogen, no phosphorus, and a little bit of potassium. So I'm addressing that with our system, Nutrient 643, foliar application. Now, here's the Haney test. A little bit different, right? I'm not going to go over all this. Some of I still don't understand. I don't think I can make a thing, but kind of one couple things I want to show you. So soil health, the carbon to nitrogen ratio, about 16.5. Ideally, that should be 10 to 12. So we're a little high. So that has to do with the microbial availability and breakdown. So we've got to add, we got to get that better in balance. And we're doing that through some cover cropping and some additional mulching. But these things a lot of these things don't move fast. So you've got to look at it over a long time. The other thing is our soil health score is 8P. It really should be about 12 to 14. So we're a little high on that. We can move it better. And all that has to do with this long, complicated formula about how all these elements and minerals work together. There's some formula that they come up with. That's why it's important to not just do it once. You do it over time so you can see what's happening. But there's some other good news in here. This is kind of cool. If you're on a big scale, it's the nitrogen comparison, and they actually calculate the available nitrogen. That's a key word, available, to the plants. And because of these practices we put in, regenerative practices and organic practices, we have a nitrogen credit in our soil. So we don't have to add as much nitrogen in our soil because it's there because of the composting. And it's to the tune of $15.60 an acre, which is not a lot, but you move your operation out into thousands of acres, you've saved yourself a considerable amount of money. So we were super duper excited. In addition, this is the one I was doing jumping jacks over. Our soil organic matter, 5%. So I was like, Ryan and I were like, yeah, we have arrived. The interesting thing about this was when we met with the extension agent a couple of years ago, and he said, you need to do a soil test. And I said, well, I don't think I even knew about the Haney test. I said, well, there's another kind of test we can measure more things like organic matter. And he said, why do you need to do that? I'm like, what? We want to know what's going on in our soil. We want to know how can we improve our soil? How can we actually reduce some of our labor? How can we make healthier and better crops? How can we reduce our inputs? This is helping us at New Water determine our practices that we're doing the right thing, but also improving our produce and more nutrient dense. So this was all very encouraging. I'm still studying this to figure out what the heck is some of these ratios, but it's a lot of information that they're able to do. And I would just recommend the Haney test, but I would say start somewhere testing your soil. It's very important. So that's all I got. That's where I am on the interviewing your soil. Tell me about yourself, but we got a couple of questions. Yes, ma'am. I haven't, it's been a while since we've tested every area. I'm starting to go back and test each area. Now I do measure pH, and we're going to be measuring our fungal to bacteria ratios in each plot. And we'll take an average in those plots. I think we have 7 different things, but yeah, yes, ma'am. Yeah. But you're paying, what you got going on. So we're doing it. We do it several other ways. We also do, like I said, the fungal to bacteria ratios to know kind of what's living in our soil, which in the vegetables, you want 1-to-1, the fungal to bacteria. In the more the woody species, a forest is a 14 to 15 fungal to bacteria. So we would expect higher in our persimmons and our pears, but some of the more things like figs and those kind of things, it'll be lower. So we'll be doing that once things come back out of dormancy. But we also are measuring our sugar bricks levels in all of our vegetables, all of our fruits. We track that. So the higher that is, the more healthier the plant is. So we're trying to move our blueberries to closer to 20%. Right now they're around 14 or 15. So that's one of my goals in the next 2 years is to get our bricks levels up. There's one number to remember, and it's beneficial to 2 people or two things. 12% is a great number. You can get your bricks levels to 12%. There's less pest pressure, but also the distillers love it. They don't have to use much yeast. So if we can get some of our stuff up higher, it's more attractive to things like the distilling process. We're not going into the distillery business, but it'll taste a lot better. Yes, sir, Bill. Bill's asking about the correction with the fungal. We're going to go over that later in more detail. Yeah, I had a friend, he was my former boss. He was a flight instructor, and he said often, a lot of times we go through life and we just follow these beacons. And so you can ask a bunch of people until you get the answer that you want, or you can find the right person to ask to get the right answer for what you need. And so a lot of times you can beacon just kind of this path. But yeah, real quick, I'll just answer that question real quickly. So we had a fungal issue in our blackberries, and we'll talk a little bit more of this later. And our previous recommendations for those things were to spray, fungicides. Our challenge was the fruit was on the vine. We couldn't spray it and then people eat it. But then also just seeking out research on the internet. Our recommendation was to pull the vines, pull the roots, pull it up, burn it, leave it fallow for 3 years. And so that's not a very feasible option for your cash crop. And then that's how I met Tom. He said, I got a better answer for you. So we're trialing the magnesium to get rid of our yellow rust problem that's been pervasive in our blackberries. So we're having some successes, but I'll talk a little more about that later. Thanks for your question, sir. Any other quick questions? All right. Yes, sir. No, sir. His question was, are we using 643? We're using it. Yes, sir. We're using it on everything. All of everything growing out here. Rose bushes. We haven't put it on the yard yet, the lawn, but all of our fruiting and vegetables places we're using the 643 as a foliar spray. We're using the magnesium. We're trialing it in our blackberries. We also are trialing it in our blueberries, and then I will be adding it in our vegetables as well. I'll show you if we walk up to the greenhouse. I'll show you what we're trialing on our transplants with magnesium. Yes, sir. I'm a believer in magnesium. I've seen it work. Yeah. Any other questions? Well, is this you or me? I can't tell. All right, I'll say it. There's a great book this is one of my transitions to, and it's been a recent read. It's a hard read. It's a long read. A book called What Your Food Ate by David Montgomery and his wife, Ann Bickley. They've written about 4 or 5 books together on agriculture, the hidden nature. I forgot the name of that book, Hidden Nature. But he's a geologist. She's a biologist. So they make a good team. I'd Google him. He gives a great talk on things like soil loss, that kind of stuff. But one of the quotes from the book, What Your Food Ate, is how we treat the land affects how it in turn treats us. And so one of the big transitions for me was 2 things. And it was said in one of these meetings about stewardship. As a Christ follower, we believe we're to be stewards of the land, right? Mm-hmm. And most people would say, well, steward is taking care. It's like a custodian, taking care of something you're entrusted with. And I'm like, well, anybody can manage a mess. I mean, you can just manage the wrong thing, keep it going, right? So I think Barry may have said, I think we should make it better. That should be the better definition of stewardship. Make it better than what you left it. If you're leaving something behind, you want to make it better, right? For your kids or whoever following us. And then the other thing was just obviously looking at things as a system, not just honing in on a single specialty and looking at it as, well, I got this bug, I got this thing. And I think it's in one of these slides later. My neighbor, when we lived in Birmingham, he was a podcast dude. I mean, I think that's all he did besides going to work. But he said, hey, man, you're into gardening stuff. You ought to listen to this podcast, Joe Rogan podcast with a dude named Will Harris. Will Harris is a 5th generation big cattle farmer over in Bluffton, Georgia. And this is some of Ryan and I's epiphany too. He said, and he changed over 25 years the way they were doing things. So they went from 3 employees to 180 employees, shipping meat in all 48 states. And he is one of the regenerative champions. And he said his change was waking up one day, realizing as a farmer, as a cattle person, I woke up every day thinking, what am I going to kill today? Is it a cow? Is it a bug? Is it a pest? Is it a fungus? Is it a weed? And he goes, I'm a farmer. I'm in the life business. Something's not right here. And so he began to look at it as, what am I going to do to promote life? And how do these things coexist? And that was a really pivotal point for me as well, about 2.5 years ago. So practically speaking, what does that mean here at New Water? We coexist with the geese. I used to hate them. But I realized, you know what? They're eating bugs and weeds and pooping and making fertilizer. As long as they're not destroying something, we're going to let them be. The deer are a lot of pressure for the deer. As long as we can kind of help them eat something else as opposed to what we don't want them to eat, we're gonna try to get along together. But then, just biodiversity and paying attention and listening, and we feel like we have more bird species here now. We planted more things that are pollinator friendly, so more butterflies and bees and good bugs and even some of the bad bugs. I mean, it's a system. And so we realized we have a place in that system. And so those are some really big life changes for me. And Ryan was my friend and cohort, and we learned together, and he taught me a lot of things, and composting and permaculture and all those kind of cool things. And I used to think a lot of it was just voodoo, but spending your hands in the soil every day and seeing it for real, it really has changed my life. So I will tell you that I was behind the desk and I moved down here outside every day, dropped my resting heart rate 15 points, no medication, and lost 25 pounds. So it's a real thing. And then also the other thing too is, what we eat is important. So a lot of times I go out, grab something from the garden, go home and cook it that night. And man, whew. So yeah. So if you'd like to, we can do a little walkabout, or we could probably, some folks that maybe want to ride. I'd like to show you the greenhouse and some trialing we're doing up there, and then we can come back and continue the program. But if does anybody want to walk and see that, or we can change it up and do it sort of at the end if you want. Now or later? Who wants to do it now? We can do it later. We can do it later. It's fine. It's not going to mess anything up. So, all right. So we'll do that. So I think I'm supposed to invite Scotty up at this point. Yeah. Yeah. We'll do this and then let's do this and then we can eat lunch and then we can go see the stuff. All right, Allie, we're moving things around a little bit. So let me talk about the blackberry. So Bill asked a question about what we had. So on the left, you see these are Kiowa blackberries. That's what you saw on the right-hand side. If they were super duper healthy, people think we are growing grapes out here. But the trellis it's a hybrid strain out of Arkansas that we started with. We have 3 blocks of these blackberries, a little over an acre and a third, if you will. And you can see the berries on the vine on the left, and this rust just moved in rapidly. These are spore based. They travel by the wind, or if even a bee gets some and then goes to the next flower, they're going to transfer it to the plant. They don't necessarily, the spores don't necessarily kill the plant, but they severely stun its growth by killing the leaves. So then obviously you've got a lack of photosynthesis, right? And so here these berries are on this plant. The recommendation was to spray it with a chemical, which means we probably couldn't harvest the berries. So you're kind of in a catch-22. And so Tom came and Scotty and spent about a half a day with me here looked at most everything here, but specifically the blackberries, and said, we have a similar issue with this yellow rust and strawberries. And so we've had success with the magnesium. So we're going to recommend a magnesium program in our blackberries. We didn't necessarily try. We didn't have a control. I'm like, we're going to save everything. So everything got treated. So it began with blackberries have there's promocanes and floricanes. So they're kind of every other year. So the vines you'll see now are the fruit-bearing ones, and then what comes second is the next year's growth, which produces next year berries. So we let those go up. We suppress the next year's growth. That's called trellis. Oh man, now I forgot what it's called. T-pups. Trellis propagation utilizing primocane suppression. That's what it is. So we keep the next year's growth cut down and let the energy go to the fruit production. So we waited until all the fruit was done, and then we cut these canes out, and then we began treating with magnesium. We started with a 4,000 parts per million soil drench, and then we were spraying for 2 or 3 weeks about 2,500 parts per million foliar spray on the leaves to be absorbed in, and then we got down to 1,250. So we did that for about 2 months. And the new growth that was coming up, we only, I think maybe 2 plants out of 650 I saw a little bit of rust on. So it had done its trick last year. I was working in the yesterday, and I noticed at the very, very base in the bottom leaves close to the ground, we had a little bit, probably about, I worked 3 rows, and probably I want to say about 40% had a little bit of rust on them. So I actually went and sprayed a organic fungicide that's made up of citric acid, cinnamon oil, and about 98% of other stuff that just is inert ingredients. And so hopefully that additional application of that, we're getting ready to start applying the magnesium again this spring. But it's a mean little bugger. Bad. Yes, sir.
Your leaf hits the ground.
Yes, sir.
So
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. We're getting ready to retreat the soil too. But I knocked it out with this new product I'm using. Yes, sir. 3 years. So, well, yes, sir. We think we've saved all of them. We'll know in about 2 months. I don't know about that. That could go several different ways, brother. They killed him, right? That's true. Yeah. Yeah. So this is the treatment after. This is like kind of early fall on the right hand side. So we did the magnesium. You mentioned the NutriPlant. We were foliar applying the 643, which we really like because it's a low nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium with a lot of other trace elements. That's kind of become our foundational fertilizer here at New Water. It's such a great base. And the deer repellent, our big pest is the deer. They just love to come in and eat stuff that you're trying to save. The great thing about these 3 products, I can mix them all together in my tank and make one pass. I can spray the whole thing, so I don't have to do 3 separate passes. So it's obviously a labor saving, minimizes compaction, equipment use, that kind of thing, and the 3 system does really great. So we oftentimes will mix other things in the tank together and just try to do one pass. So that was our experience with Kiowa blackberries. We've not seen this fungus in other places, but powdery mildew is the issue we have here in Birmingham. We have here in Alabama. So that's usually takes our cucumbers out. So we're going to be trialing some on the cucumbers as well. I'm going to get Scotty to come up. This is some trial that Scotty did at his place, Oak Hill Heritage Farms. I'll let him talk about these comparisons and what we found.
So if you'll take a look at the plant on the right, this plant was treated with our magnesium and fertilized with the NutriPlant 643. The plant on the left, the 2 plants on the left were not treated. They were untreated. These plants came from the same 6-pack. When I went and bought these from the local feed and seed store, they were in the same 6-pack. So this, as you go, you might say, okay, that's a freak thing. But I'm going to show you here as we move forward that this is not a freak thing. So this is a cabbage that we bought at the same time we bought that kale. Treated, untreated. NutriPlant was applied to both of them as a fertilizer base. Magnesium was applied to the plant on the right. As a matter of fact, you can see that plant on the right is already headed up. So it is light years ahead of the plant on the left as far as production is concerned. And this is not just a once in a while thing that we get here. We see this continually, no matter to date what plant we put it on. This particular test we did, this is pretty incredible to me. So this is 35 days of growth on black oil sunflowers. The one on the left, those were they're both field planted. The one on the left was untreated. The one on the right was treated. So here's the cool thing about it. On the right, we have a flower head ready in 35 days. This is a 70-day crop. I need y'all to understand. There's 35 more days of growing that these other plants did before they ever started putting a flower head on. We already have blooms at 35 days. That is an incredible increase in the growing times for these plants. Again, that baseline fertilizer for me has been NutriPlant. Now, we did some experimenting with the old way granular fertilizers. And we wound up finding traces of that granular fertilizer, 3 or 4 months later that has not dissolved in the soil. But with the NutriPlant, we can, again, Dr. Brandon stated, we can make one pass over this with the mag, the NutriPlant, and deer repellent. These didn't have deer repellent on them. And yeah, they got wiped out by the deer, by the way, right after this. These were in a high fence, but as soon as we cut that fence off, they tore them up. But we like the NutriPlant because it is an easy application process for us. When you got a garden that's no bigger than the size of this room, it's one thing to walk around, but when you're dealing with acres and acres and acres, and you're running a tractor all day, if you got to make 3 passes, side dressing, plowing, versus a foliar application, it's money. That's what that is. This is money we're saving here. These were some Roma tomatoes, and I just moved them side by side for a comparison. I hadn't really done any trimming on these at this point. You can see the difference. The one on the right was treated. The one on the left was untreated. Again, these are the same age plants. I need everyone to understand that. These plants are exactly the same age. That's the difference in the NutriPlant adding the magnesium hydroxide nanoplatelets that we use versus any other thing that we've tried or any other magnesium product that I know of. This is a guy that worked for me, which he's about 5'8", and you can see that Better Boy tomato plant. That's one plant right there. It's monster. We yielded 7 bushels. We estimated about 7 bushels off of this one plant. The magnesium made a huge difference in this. This was actually before I had NutriPlant. I did not use NutriPlant on this. I used a granular triple 13 fertilizer like we all use on these plants. The difference in this is the mag is what made the difference. This is a bell pepper plant, and I intentionally drought stressed this bell pepper. And if you'll take a look at those leaves, they're about to fall off. I thought they were going to fall off, and I thought it was going to defoliate, but it did not. That's the picture on the right was 20 days later after we rewatered with no additional treatments. That's the same leaves that you're looking at right there. That plant came back to life. We did use the NutriPlant 643 in these. But we had pre-treated all of these with the magnesium. One thing about this magnesium is it does give us a lot of drought tolerance and heat tolerance. And this was at like 95-degree temperatures. All right. So these bell peppers, I want you to see, this was before I started testing the NutriPlant. Again, I was using a granular fertilizer. We go back to the fertilizer. To me, it's the system of application is what makes the ease in using the NutriPlant 643 versus a granular type fertilizer. One thing I wanted you to understand this. I'm going to walk around here. You see that number right there? 15 fruits per season. Mr. Tom will tell you that number is actually a little high, isn't it, Mr. Tom? Because most PhDs will tell you that a pepper plant will never produce more than about 10 peppers. You see that number right there? That's 325 peppers off that one plant. I said that one plant, not those plants, one plant. If you look right here, you see that brown spot right there, that gray, that's blossom end rot that we wound up getting in these peppers. These guys were side by side here. Our whole field of the untreated caught this. So we lost 50% of the yield on 10 peppers or 15 peppers. I put 15 to be, okay for the art. You want to argue with me. We lost 7 of those peppers per plant. But we lost half our yield due to this. Meanwhile, the reason I zeroed in on this, I want everyone to understand. You see the size of these peppers. These are mature peppers that are ready for harvest. But look right there. That's a bloom. All right, so on this plant, and you'll see here in another slide, I think it's on here. Well, let's go to this one. This is an average size bell pepper off of an average plant, but we're yielding 10 bell peppers per that plant. And I wish I could say they all did this, but they don't. But this is an example of us. So this was a drought resurrected plant. The one I showed you a while ago that was about dead. That pepper came off of that. And I want you to look at these weights, 3.87 grams versus 7.81 grams. And look at the coloration in this. There's nothing wrong with that pepper plant, with that pepper right there. We see that multiple times in this using this magnesium product. We get these larger grows out of it. Mr. Tom, go ahead.
One reason you big is you have to work. You got that require the minimum fertilizer you put in. If you increased your fertilizer as you increased your bales, most of your bales will come off on the same side.
What Mr. Tom said for anyone listening online was the reason we're seeing that not all of those peppers are growing to that size is because of our fertilizer application. That's something that as we work these products that we have to work out. We have to know that, okay, this is the reason these things are doing this. And if we want them all to grow bigger, we need to add more fertilizer. Again, with the NutriPlant 643, fertilizer, it makes that application process so much easier. Plus, these two products combine with each other very well. The nanoplatelet form of the magnesium causes that fertilizer to molecularly bond to it, a monolayer bond to that. So this magnesium does not leach out of the soil. So therefore, our fertilizer are monolayer bonded to it. It stays in the soil. So we get the bang for that fertilizer longer because this magnesium does not deteriorate out of the soil or leach out of the soil. The only thing that will make this magnesium deteriorate is a low pH environment or an acidic type of environment. This magnesium, which we're going to go over here in a minute, is a pH neutralizer. You heard Robert talk about those pH levels. That 5 to 7 is where that magic number is. That's what this magnesium does. These are corn seedlings, and I'll go ahead and talk this one for you, Doc. That Dr. Brandon and I are growing a specialty corn. It's called James Island Red or Jimmy Red corn. This is a distiller's corn. We're doing some testing with it. We grew some last year to try to get a seed base. These are some germinations that he did in the greenhouse over winter. And I want you to look. He applied the magnesium to them. Look at the root growth. It was applied to the right-hand side. The ones on the left were not. So you see the root masses here. Look at the mass on these roots compared to what we have here. That's strictly from that magnesium. That increase in root production, that gives us that increase in plant production. All right. Is this me? Synopsis of the benefits. Healthier plants, greater root mass, obvious in that last slide. Stronger stalks, increased nutrient uptake, more resistant to pathogens, pests, and diseases. All right. Healthier fruit, larger, more favorable, sweeter, richer, greater budding, higher fruit production, supple and firm at harvest. So I want to talk about that healthier plant thing for a second. You heard Dr. Brandon talk about healthier plants. Healthier plants resist pathogens more. They resist bugs more. The healthier the plant, the less those bugs like it. So one thing about this system that we're using is we get these healthier plants. This magnesium product that we use, we see the greatest out of it. We'll talk about that in a second. The healthier fruit, you saw an example with a larger bell pepper. It was double the size, I would say. It was definitely double the weight. More flavorful. Barry will tell you the first time that he ate one of the bell peppers that was grown with it, he said, "My God, this tastes so good." Couldn't believe the taste in it. It does that. It does raise those sugar contents up. The greater budding, it does see that these healthier plants want to produce more. One thing that the magnesium does that we can't find in any other magnesium that we've tested is it allows that plant to take up 100% of the nutrients you're feeding it. You can throw everything in the book at it. Doesn't matter whether it's NutriPlant or whether it's triple 13 or triple 8 or whatever. That plant will normally only take up about 60% of the nutrients that you throw at it. So you're losing a percentage of your nutrients that you're trying to feed. So you're losing money. We've noticed that these plants are allowed to uptake more of that, what we're feeding them with that monolayer bonding. We keep the fertilizer at the plant base longer. It's a greater uptake. And then with our foliar application, we can throw that fertilizer to it and foliar absorb into it. We also foliar apply the mag with it and a deer repellent, and it makes that deer repellent stick a little bit longer because it bonds to it also. We notice the suppleness of our fruit production, no matter what is vegetable production. We also see more budding on these plants, therefore we're getting a higher yield. More buds, higher yield. Everybody needs to remember that. The synopsis of the benefits: increased harvest, 17 to 400% more fruits. You see that number? That's a huge increase. And this is across the board. This isn't just we picked a couple of things and said, "Oh, this is the greatest thing since sliced bread." Everything we've tested this on, we get the same baseline. We get one
twice a month.
Mm-hmm.
That means you're not getting 400% increase, much greater increase.
That's right. We are. So we had 325. Yep. We had 325 peppers picked off of that plant. Typically, you're going to get 10. Do the math on the yield increase in that. If I'm an organic farmer growing in a greenhouse, every inch of my space costs me money. It costs me money to feed it, to water it, to heat it, to somebody to pick the peppers off of it. If I'm able to give you, or if this product, not me, is able to give you an increase of 300, 400, 500% in your yield, you're making money. I don't care what you go ahead.
Issue. That's 5 equivalent fruits of what was on the untreated plant.
Absolutely.
So yeah, 185 to 100, you're at 585.
There you go.
Yeah, one thing I think is important to realize too is we mentioned earlier about the challenges of accessibility to food. So when I first saw this number, Sky told me about, like, okay, 325 peppers off of one plant, and then similarly with other vegetable plants. All of a sudden, I'm thinking, if I just grew one pepper plant in a pot on my balcony, I can't consume 325 peppers, but my neighbors might be. So think about urban farms and some of these housing projects where it's really a challenge to even buy food, that we could come in and help folks. Okay, you raise a pepper plant, I'll raise a squash plant, you raise the tomato plant, and you got 3 or 4 neighbors. All of a sudden, they got fresh access to a lot of food without a lot of effort. And so I think you could really address some of these food insecurity in challenging places, not just in our nation, but across the world, where people are starving to death and inaccessibility to food. You've got a great reason to help folks here, and it's Not a lot of effort. Yes, sir, Barry.
Somebody. It's 385 pepper. But how much did you bake?
Man, you're looking at $750 to $1,000 from one plant.
So you can, once that pepper starts, if you're in a greenhouse, you're pretty much unlimited because that plant doesn't do what it normally does in the field, which is a frost will hit it and kill it. The only thing that's going to stop it from producing is a frost kill. That's it. Or you do something stupid to it and it kills the plant. Otherwise, the plant's going to keep getting bigger. It's going to keep getting more healthy. Mr. Tom there, he'll testify to this too. He gets the same numbers on these yields. So it's nothing. We're not just making these numbers up. This is actual stuff. Go ahead. Oh, I'm gonna get to that in just a second. There's a lot of difference in it, but I'm gonna get to that here in just a second. All right. What is this? For the spring growing season. Okay. All right. So what we're spraying now, the magnesium products. We see an increased nutrient absorption rate. We see improved stress tolerance. We boost pest resistance, increase chlorophyll production, and improve photosynthesis. The Nanotech Resources is the manufacturer of these nanoplatelets. It's a superb product. Soil augmentation is what this is, a nutrient supplement. Is what that's our claim to fame with that. Balances the pH levels of the soil and plants, accelerates the growth, does not easily dissipate, reduces need for microbials and pesticides. And testing shows an increase of up to 65% in yields. All right, let me stop right there before we go any further. I want to tell you why. I want to answer your question now. The reason is because of the way that platelet, our magnesium is a platelet form. There's no other form of magnesium in the world that is made or like our product. Our product is also 100% pure magnesium. It's the purest form of magnesium in the world. So if I was going to give you an example of how it works, and we were talking about that monolayer bonding, let's take this little table for instance. You have this big surface area on the top. We have a big surface area on the bottom. We have this little tiny edge. That surface area, this table represents that magnesium platelet. This is what they look like under an electron microscope, just like this table. They're different forms, but this is what they look like. And what it does is this big surface area allows for us to stack on top of this plate whatever we want. We can put a nutrient on top of it. And the way that platelet works, it automatically, it's like Velcro. It wants to bond to it anyway, off of polarity. So what Mr. Tom is saying is the reason it works that way is because of the polarity, positive and negative, the way it attracts. It's just like a magnet. We can make these platelets, make these platelets by stacking whatever we want to on top of these platelets.
X, Y, and Z, it's got to say top, the bottom is X and Y, and Z will be the edge. The edge had very little.
We have three axes, an X, and Y, and a Z, top, bottom, and sides. This magnesium is a platelet form. Most other magnesiums, all other magnesiums, are either rod, sphere, or an ion form. And their percentage of purity is less than what we have. We can create different sizes of the platelets. That allows for those to be easily uptake into the plant. And once hydrology takes over, it pulls those nanoplatelets into that plant and disperses it throughout the system. Same way with the leaf foliar application. It absorbs through leaf, through the process, takes it in to the plant. It also protects the plant roots once we do a soil application with it. So the first thing we do is a soil application, and that protects the roots from pathogens.
Foliar spray, let the foliar spray take it in from the leaves, and we treat the soil to give the plant a opportunity. What Scotty just touched on, you only get 60% of the nutrients put in the ground goes into the plant. 40% of that, you're feeding pathogens, you're feeding bacteria, you're feeding funguses, you're feeding the pathogen period. Our magnesium, when you put it around the root, will as a shield. Now, legally, all I can tell you is this is a soil amendment, period. But I can't tell you the side effects. You see it done on television with drugs. When they give you a drug on TV, they all smile and they tell you what the drug will do. That's silly. Side effects is when you go blind. It makes you be
Okay. So Tom has kind of explained to everyone here how this magnesium works, and how it works in the hydrology of the plant and things like that. We can get much deeper into that. If anyone has questions, anyone online has questions about that, we can get much deeper into that. We have some other presentations that specifically talk about the magnesium problem. We do notice that so there's an increase in the sugar content of these plants, or this fruit that we get. Hence the blackberries. Dr. Brandon was speaking about how he wants to try to increase his sugar in his blackberries, and we will know this spring, once these blackberries fruit out, what that increase is in that sugar content.
It don't go after the nutrients that needs to grow. It puts because it don't get those nutrients. It puts that plant in stress.
Back to what we said before about uptake of the nutrients into that plant. We don't see that through any other product. We can get that much nutrient uptake, no matter what we've put on anything to try it. The magnesium nanoplatelets that Nanotech makes seem to be the best thing that we've found. We are currently testing some other things, which I'm about to go over here in just a second. So, Mr. Tom is going into the fact that our nanoplatelet, the magnesium nanoplatelet, will not dissolve out of the soil. It won't leach out of the soil. The only thing that will break it down is a low pH, more of an acidic type thing. If you put a vinegar on it, you'll kill it. Other than that, it wants to bring all the soil to a normalized pH, which is between 5.3 and 7.5, is where it brings that pH level in the soil to, which is perfect for plants, as we discussed earlier. He's just kind of going through some things here about it. He's getting a little more in depth with it, but we're going to be moving forward here in just a second. Tom is explaining that he also is a fifth generation farmer. and he has mentored me on all of this with this magnesium. So I give him all the kudos in the world for this. Uh, we're still learning about it, but we know that from what we've seen, this is I won't say it's the best thing since sliced bread, but it's the next best thing since sliced bread. We're going, if someone's interested in trying this magnesium, we have ways that we can get some for you to test. Mr. Tom's saying that he's a 5th generation farmer, and 9 years ago when he started using this particular magnesium, that he said he thought he knew how to grow a garden until he started using this, and he started seeing things that he couldn't believe. The same with me. That's what triggered me to come to the realization that there's a better way to do this than the way we've been doing it. Using these products, we're seeing results that I've never seen before in my life. I've been farming my whole life. So this is a good thing. Yeah, go ahead. You do this.
All right. Barry,
Well, let's get.
go ahead.
So the gentleman mentioned the difference over there. Another difference is that the only 2 other types of magnesium that are available are either a sphere or a rod. So if it's a sphere, it's only touching that cell in one spot. All the other magnesium is wasted. If it's a rod, it's touching it a little bit longer, but it's still only touching in that one tangent plate. The platelets are touching like this, and then you have the magnetic attraction.
Your spheres and your rods are, they're iron, but they dissolve and they wash away. There's nothing that holds them. Our plate is designed, once you put it, wherever you put it in that soil, it stays right there in that area. That's said from row to row. You don't get no magnesium in the middle of the road. What you do have is paths that feeding off the nutrients in that soil. Once they eat everything in the middle of the road, then they start getting vibrations of where the rest of it's coming from. And it's actually around the plant.
So Tom's saying that the stability of magnesium to stay in place doesn't leach out. So it stays pretty much where it's applied, which is at the root, the rhizosphere of the plants. And the platelet form has much more surface area for binding, aiding in nutrient uptake.
All the in the soil that's around and carry it to the plant. And once they erupt,
So he's talking about bugs, moving pathogens, erupting and then taking nutrients toward the base of the plant. The rod and sphere forms, the ionic form of magnesium. It's not as efficient as a nanoplate form. So very stable. So to that point, we're looking at a different form of magnesium. This is Advancing Eco Agriculture. I use a lot of their products here at the farm. They've got a product called PhotoMag, which is not just magnesium, but it has other trace elements in it. And we're testing it alongside of the Nanotech magnesium to see in our seedlings. We're not testing on a plant. We're testing in our seedlings to see. We've done a soil drench last week, 2 weeks ago, after the plant emerged, to see the difference in the two. But this product contains a lot of other trace elements: sulfur, boron, cobalt, all that good stuff in there. So it's not a 1-to-1, but it's the closest thing I could find to test against the Nanotech. I think I know the outcome. We don't know the outcome. So what we're spraying here, obviously foliar fertilizer 643. It's been great for us here. It's like I said, it's a foundational NPK 643 percentages, 6% nitrogen. So low amount, so we're not going to burn our plants up. A lot of times with the solid fertilizers, you put it on, it's too hot and you kill your plant. But obviously, increase all those things that benefits. This is a NutriPlant 643. It's very balanced. It contains a lot of other trace elements that are important for different phases of the plant life. Obviously, foliar for quick uptake into the plant, and all these other good things. It's increasing yield quality as well as building resistances in the plant. And then, like I said, here we have an issue with deer. So I meant to bring a jug of it up, but it's really pungent. It's really pungent. It's just think if you had a bunch of old rotten eggs and you mixed it with some garlic. That's pretty much what it smells like. Story I like to tell is I used to spray it with a backpack sprayer. You go through, you pump, and I had an older one, and I'm out there spraying, and all of a sudden it quits, and I realized the hose blew off the back of the backpack sprayer. All this stuff went down my backsides, and I could not. My wife said, "You ain't coming in the house. You smell horrible." I mean, honey, that's the smell of production. She didn't believe me, but it does deter the deer and the rabbits. So yeah, it's commercially available. We're looking at developing our own here. Probably be a little cheaper for everybody, but it's done well in the rain. A lot of times your foliar, as soon as it rains, you got to reapply. But we've I don't know if we've trained our deer here, but let me just tell you a really quick story about it. So last year, the deer like to come through in the blackberries and strip the vines of the new buds. They just love that. It's like eating corn on the cob, I guess. And we have a lot of coyotes out here as well. I think they're lazy. They're not doing their part to take out the deer herd. But I'm old, so when I weed, I just go along on all fours because I don't have to keep standing up, getting down. And so I'm weeding along in the blackberries. And I had applied some deer repellent like the week before, and I'm starting to smell like coyote urine. And they say, well, spray that stuff; it'll keep the deer away. Well, right beside where it was a big pile of deer poop. Coyote smell, but they're not eating the blackberries. So I'm like, this stuff really works. The coyote urine didn't scare the deer away. They've been coexisting forever, right? Yes, sir. I don't go with their recommended dilution rate because I found it so strong. I cut it by probably if they say X, I'm like a tenth of what they say. So I haven't had a problem with it clogging. Now, if I mix to their dilution rate, it does clog the sprayer. No, sir, I don't have to. Well, I've got the other stuff in it, so it sticks. Yeah, good question. He asked about the deer repellent clogging the sprayer, but my answer is we've diluted enough to where it's not been a problem. I think this might be Scotty's invited you guys to become a tester. Actually, we've got some magnesium hydroxide in various forms on the table today. I want to tell you, Matthew's got a story. I wish there was another guy here who's got a story about the medicinal side of this. I got a story about it. I was working the bees one day. I'm thinking I'm invincible, so I don't suit up. And one nailed me right here beside my eye, right there on the bone. And I usually swells up. It hurts like crazy. So I went to dip my fingers, smeared it over my face in 20 seconds. It stopped hurting, never swelled up, never knew I got stung before. I did it on fire ant bites. Matthew had a scab on his finger last week. I said, dude, you should put some magnesium hydroxide on that. Gone the next day. I'd go broke. I'd go broke.
Here today, but he came here, and the day or two after he was here, he got attacked by a pit bull, ripped his hand wide, and he put the magnesium on it, and in 17 days, it's healed, no scars, nothing. Whoa. Wow.
So what we're talking about here is the side effects. Is Mr. Tom said I have to say it like this. This magnesium has some side effects. One of the side effects of it is that it will heal up cuts and scrapes and things like that in record time. It will help you with bug bites and things like that. So those are positive side effects that this magnesium have. If you, it's just a side effect of this magnesium use. If you spill it on your hand, don't worry, it's just going to help you. But I wanted to cover that because we're not making claims of it being any type of medicine or anything like that. But when it's something we're on the farm with it, that's the first thing I'm going to go grab. I'll tell you a story about it. My 2-year-old granddaughter, she learned how to talk a little early, and she was outside with me, and I looked down. She starts screaming. I look down. She's covered in fire ants, and she's screaming bloody murder. I run her in the house, and I grab some of that mag, and I start putting that magnesium on her little foot and all those ants had gotten her. She had about six of them on her that were stuck to her when I pulled them off, and she's just shaking like that. And as soon as I put it on her, she says, "Oh, Pawpaw, it feels so much better," and stopped crying. And she didn't even have any, any swelling, anything. Usually, a ant bite will head up, fire ant bite will head up. Nothing like that. So just a little story of a lot of people in here have used it and they have their own stories and testimonies about it. But anyway, I just wanted to cover that before we got any further. You can become a beta tester if you'd like. We have some available for testing back there. Just talk to us after. We can talk about the NutriPlant. You can, there's ways to purchase the NutriPlant. Usually the liquid fence, deer, and rabbit repellent, you can buy it at any store that we have or any box store, big box store sells it, Tractor Supply sells it. We are working on our own deer and rabbit repellent that we're going to be introducing before long. But right now we're just going to go with this for this spring, this system that we use here. We'll give you some more results on the difference between the two magnesiums that we're testing as we go further. And that way we can say, Dr. Brandon believes in PhotoMag because of the trace elements and things that are in it. And he also believes in the magnesium hydroxide. So we think this is going to be a good, head-to-head test on what we have here.
And there is a lot of good work to be done with it. That are blocked. To keep this any man just out. The money that we have put in continue with bucket without a bottom. You can't put it in $1 million decision by $9 million to they got the money for us here. So long. I'm hoping with the effort you got, the way that for the next 5 years, it's getting closer and closer to when we get approval. We don't get no negativity from the EPA, FDA, and but we do get a lot of negativity from the people at the age that they told to get yes, but we also work on the much stored air.
Go ahead.
Allie wrote these are honorable mentions. So what we're doing here, in addition to these 3 products we mentioned, I'm doing some other things too because we are really trying to work hard on getting biologics in our system, our soils. So these are some other products from Advancing Eco Ag. If you listen to it, it's a great podcast. John Kemp with Advancing Eco Ag. It's a lot of information. I would listen to that when you can focus on what they're talking about because it's a lot of information. Product called C-Stem, which helps addition, pest and pathogen resistance, plant immunity, and thriving soil fungi. A product called C-Shield. And these are products that you would introduce into the soil. Whole Cow, which is a calcium supplement, which I added to the magnesium this week for our trials, and then a product called Rejuvenate, which breaks down biomass into decomposition. It speeds it up. So, like if you're cover cropping a lot, that's always the thing you have. How do I get rid of the cover crop? Typically, in old practices, were to spray it with, stuff, and that's not good. So Scotty really busted me about 6 weeks ago, and I went home very sad because he sent me a report that said every beer company and even wine has traces of glyphosate, and sent me the report. I went, what? Because the granaries spray to kill it down. It's showing up in our food. There's a white paper. You name it.
I'll touch on that.
Anything grain, yeah. In fact, there's a white paper I read last year that in the Midwest, they're detecting glyphosate in the air. So now we're breathing it. It's just prevailing use. So it's hard to get away from it. But cover cropping, typically they would spray it, kill it down, and blah, blah, blah. So what we would do is to weed eat or mow it down and then spray it to rejuvenate. So it helps it break down faster to get that stuff into the soil. Yeah, and it's all organic. There's some more products, Micro 5000 Organic. It's a fertilizer that is based on sea plants. I don't know why I should put Farmer's Almanac, but I'm using compost teas, and Ryan taught me this. We use earthworm castings. We put those in a solution with rainwater and aerate it and add some microbial inoculants, things like molasses, anything that'll speed that up. And then we drench the soil with that. So we drenched several of our blackberry plots in the last 10 days with this. So feeding the soil, and obviously mulching, cover crop, keeping that organic matter on top of the soil are some things we're doing. So yeah, it's additional things happening here at the farm.
He's going to get lunch ready for here, so I'm going to continue this. A farm is nothing without the community that supports it. Venerati out of Black Mountain. During World War II, across urban, suburban, rural areas, community farming became widely popularized, as strengthened the roots of community while providing essential substances for their neighborhoods. The focus was local, minimizing cost, delivering resources, and from farm to table. As we're seeing that come back around to today's world. Improve your soil now with the help of our regenerative agriculture community. Teaming up with us, you can unite as a dedicated community of like-minded individuals, spark meaningful shifts in the global agriculture environment, revitalize, renew, and sustain our soil without deadly EDs. Consciously create systems that boost yields, health, and taste. Regenerative use of our resources, both physical and financial. Grow more food in the same amount of space. We are dedicated to becoming more intentional stewards of our land, water, and community. The network meetings and farm to table meal is first Thursdays at New Waters Farms. Next one's going to be April 2nd and May 7th. The third Thursdays are going to be Southern Prep Academy on March 19th. That's still in the air. And April 16th. Free and paid workshop events, April, New Water Farms date to be announced, the soil rehabilitation. Join us for a deep dive discussion on soil health, how to read your soil, and what inputs may help you create balance. Leave with a one season custom grow plan for your setup and the ongoing support of your network. So consulting basically. I'm going to read all the books through you guys.
At this point, they want us to answer. If not, we can move on. We just want, anybody got a question about anything we've talked about? I didn't understand.
It's apples.
Oh, those are apples. Those are apples. Yes, sir. there's two separate dilution rates. The question was, is the dilution rate on the 643, NutriPlant 643 and the magnesium. So the magnesium has its own dilution rate. And the 643, you guys have your own dilution rates. The cool thing about it is with the NutriPlant is a little bit goes a long way. That's the cool thing about the magnesium. A little bit goes a long way. So that's why these two complement each other so well. We play around with those rates also. So we're constantly testing those rates to see if we can cut back here, because you got to remember the magnesium enhances the fertilizer to a certain degree and the plant's ability to uptake that fertilizer. So, we might not have to have as much, or we may have to have more depending on what's going on with the plant. And that's just farming. We're always in farming trying to figure out how we're going to grow it better or save a little money here, that kind of thing. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
Dr. Brandon can answer that question for him in a little bit more detail.
Yes. Yeah, he can.
I do want to bring up again 1943 story. More than 20 million victory gardens exist in the United States, with 2/3 located in cities and suburbs. This time increasing both challenges we faced were natural and political. It is imperative we help engage community home once again. The U.S. population is expected to reach 365 million by 2035, suggesting that we're going to run out of food at the current state that we're going. Now, we talked about what we ingest and what we put in our crops is derivative in our candies and food and such on. So I'm going to read, last time I touched bases about the arsenic in our candy. This test was run down by the Healthy Florida First, exposing the toxins. All this is arsenic based in our food and candies. And they have done more testing, and due to how many pieces you're allowed to have for children and adults by year now. I'm just going to read a couple. Black Forest gummy bears, 370 parts per million with arsenic. A child is only allowed to have 16 pieces a year without getting any type of that damage into their body. An adult, 40 pieces. There's one of those inside a bag of candy that your child or adult eats daily, probably. Nerds gummy clusters, a lot of people's favorite, 500. As a child's only allowed 24 of those a year. An adult, 60 pieces. Somebody here loves those candies a lot. That's why I chose that name. Kit Kat, 230. A child is only allowed to have 2.5 pieces per year before they get that toxic arsenic inside their body. 2.5 pieces. There's 4 pieces in a Kit Kat bar. So think about that. And all these candy companies know what they're pushing and what they're selling it as too. I'm going to skip a little ahead, and we talked about our bread. The United States is one of the only countries that doesn't really have real bread. If you look at every other country's bread and you cut it open, it actually looks like wheat and grains inside the bread. That has a lot to do with the United States uses potassium bromate. A lot of you guys are asking, what is that? It's a powerful oxidizing agent used as a flour conditioner to improve dough, allow it to rise higher, and produce a fine crumb structure. The purpose of it is to act as a maturing agent, strengthen the gluten network, making the dough more elastic, and bleaching it. Bleaching it. Why would we need to bleach dough, first of all? Which increases low volume and improves texture. There you go. About the profit. The usage is mostly used in industrialized bread. So a lot of the bread you guys get from Piggly Wiggly, Winn-Dixie, and that nature. It's in bread, bagels, buns, and especially in pizza dough. Pizza dough is the number one that's used in. The status isn't it. It has been banned in the European Union, Canada, China, Brazil, India, and many other countries because it is a possible human carcinogen. In the United States, the Food and Drug Administration has not banned it, but it does ask bakers to voluntarily stop using it. California now is the only state that requires you to put that on the label out of all the other states.
Right?
Ma'am? Potassium bromate. It's what's in it's in what the United States puts in a lot of their breads. It keeps it it acts as a shelf life. It makes it last longer. It adds all these other compounds like the soy, like the flour to be bleached, allows it to compound better, which all that stuff's toxin. If you look at it, every other country, if you cut open their bread, actually looks like bread. It's open, it's airy. Ours is all compressed. Most of it doesn't even contain wheat or flour. It contains very minimal of it. So our breads, yes, lots of it. So our bread's not actual real bread. That's why a lot of people in the United States have created a gluten allergy to it. And the health risks to potassium bromate, studies going back to 1982 have linked potassium bromate to kidney, thyroid, and I may butcher this name, gastrointestinal cancers. Not just that, it has damages to your nervous system and kidney system. Why is it in bread? When baked at high enough temperatures, potassium bromate should break down into harmless potassium bromide. However, if the bread is not baked long enough, or if too much is added, it can leave residue amounts in the final product. And that's in a lot of the bread. That's why that white powder, you guys seen a lot of the breads nowadays in your bag. That's not wheat or flour or any type of grain or vegetable. That's chemicals. That's the bleach of the flour and the potassium bromate left over. So United States, where you need to get ahead of that as a farm in agriculture. So Dr. Brandon, I don't even see him. So we're gonna end this really quick and get ready for our lunch. I'm gonna start us off with a prayer again before we end it. So if everybody can bow their heads, please. Dear Father, we thank you all for coming here today, bringing us all together as a great network to get this wonderful product out. Has not only changed my life, I'm sure it's going to change a lot of other people's lives out there, not just the agriculture and the health side. We're all surrounded by great, beautiful people. And we ask you, as everybody leaves today, just to guide us all on our journey back home, make sure we're all safe and blessed, and continue to walk your path of righteousness. In your name, Lord, amen. I think food is ready on the back table. And after lunch, we are going to be taking a tour of the farm as well. All right, Allie, you can leave the rest of for whatever you need to do online. Go over some stops as well too, and also for the online community. I'm going to say this back when we come back, but Miss Deedon, who's part of Amway, she cannot be here today, but we wanted to thank her very much for what she's given us and what she's helped us out to. We're going to team up with her later. She just couldn't be here today with some personal issues, but we are very passionate, be meaning to grow more food with less effort and expense as a group of people passionate about creating solutions together. And she's one key part of this. So we just want to thank her, her family, the company she's involved with helping us out. All righty, Allie, everything's up to you. And this will sign us off for lunch.
Hey, Nick, you
Yes, sir.
mentioned on the bread, it was potassium what?
Bromate.
Bromate,
Yes, sir.
like that?
Yes, sir.
All right, thanks.
Hey, no problem. Allie, I don't know how to stop screen sharing. Do you know how to work this thing?
Wait now or
Yeah. Do I just go stop sharing?
yeah, stop share. You were ending the meeting.
Yeah.
So waiting for all.